Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
What happened, Marion? Oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. Excuse me. It's me. I'm Lady Lou, the baby boomer babe who forgot what she was supposed to do, but here I am. And you're here with us this evening on the Wisdom Chat for the Curious show. And we have such a fun thing lined up for you today. I can't hardly wait for you to meet our guest. But let me introduce one of our co-hosts, Peggy Sue Skipper. Say hello, Peggy.
Hello, everybody.
Peggy's going to be the MC for the Wellness Expo that's coming up Labor Day weekend in the Conroe areas at the Conroe Convention Center. And then we have Marion, our Chief Technology Officer and co-host. Say hi, Marion.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
Yay, we're loving you every minute of it. And our guest is Rebeca Eigen. Is that how you say Eigen?
Eigen.
Eigen. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have asked. Anyway, she is a relationship alchemist. Isn't that what you call yourself? I love that word, alchemist. Tell us what that word means.
Well, an alchemist is somebody who changes something into something else.
I think of somebody who's stirring the pot with all
That's
these
right.
ingredients.
Oh, good. And Rebeca is also an astrologer, and she works with the seventh house, if you know anything about astrology, which I don't, but it's about relationships. And she's just got the most wonderful topic to talk about tonight. So why don't you start us off, Rebeca, with just a little brief introduction of who you are and how you got started in all this wonderful astrology stuff.
Okay, well, as she said, I'm a relationship alchemist. So my goal with what I do is to help you have better relationships. That means something has to change in order for something to be born, right? So the seventh house in astrology is 180 degrees opposite of what you identify with. And it's the marriage house and the house of partnerships. But it is also considered to be the house of open enemies.
Ooh.
And yes. And so the ancients called it the house of open enemies. And the reason for that is because that's where we put our shadow. That's where we put the part of us that Carl Jung called our shadow, which is the hidden parts of us, our unlived life. And so we will be fascinated by somebody who is carrying a part of us. When we attract somebody, when we're physically attracted to somebody where there's a fascination and an intoxication. And if we don't get that spark, we think, well, we don't find what we were looking for. But actually, when we find that spark, that is a part of us.
Oh, that's interesting, because we never thought about ourselves having a shadow. Wow. Well, Marion, I know you've got something good to ask. What did you want to ask Rebeca?
Well, honestly, I would really prefer that Peggy Sue take over here, because not only is she the MC of this Wellness Expo that's coming up, but she knows Rebeca personally. Yes. And so I know that she's probably ready to ask her some really important questions. I'm excited to meet you in person. I look forward to the expo, and I look forward to learning more about relationships, because I'll tell you what, we all have them. Our neighbors, our friends, our coworkers, our family. There's a relationship everywhere you turn around. And have you noticed? Some of them are kind of hard.
Well, that's where I come in. And this doesn't have to be about just marriage partners. When you learn to do shadow work, you can do it with anybody, your next door neighbor, your son, your daughter. I had a person come to me for a consultation who couldn't stand her daughter-in-law. Oh. So what was really interesting as an example was, astrologically, she was in Aries, but her moon was in Scorpio. So her daughter-in-law was the sun in Scorpio, and they had the moon and the sun conjunct. But because this Aries mom, this lady who came to me, couldn't identify with that, but she wasn't like that, but her daughter-in-law was, but it was a part of her.
Oh.
So I was able to help her to get conscious of that part of her so that she could withdraw the projections that she was seeing only in her daughter-in-law. And it's all based on projection. All our relationships begin with projections.
Right. And I think I love that when you say that, Rebecca, because, one thing that I know through the work that I've done and the life that I've lived is that, we all do have that shadow self. And when we can get to the point where we see that shadow piece, when it's projected from another person, that's like coming up against a master teacher. If we're willing to learn from the experience, if we're willing to open our consciousness and understand why this person pushes our buttons the way they do, then we begin to learn to understand ourselves better. So I think that's really important work. And I think it's especially important right now because so many of us have so much time right now for reflection,
For inner work.
So, for inner work, exactly. And so maybe and I think a lot of people during this, isolation time are bumping up against their shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's a married couple who are stuck at home together.
Exactly.
Or even two roommates. You have two roommates and they're at home because they're both working virtually.
Right.
And they're in each other's presence a lot. So you're gonna start seeing more challenges between couples. And so, my work is really unique in that as an astrologer, I don't sit there and tell you your sun and your moon and you're this and you're that. I mean, I can do a little of that, but what's more important to me is what's hidden from you. What is it you don't see that I can help you see? How can I help you improve the relationship that you have with another person? So for instance, if you think, well, that person's so tight with money, they never contribute to anything. They're always cheap. I can't stand that about that person. What I would say to you is, how can you look at that from a different perspective, 180 degrees opposite, objectively, and say, where am I out of balance with my money? Where am I out of balance with my spending? Am I too generous? Because the other person is polarizing with you so you can see your own shadow.
Right.
It's always an opposite. And that's why in marriages, opposites attract. You hear the statement, opposites attract. Why?
Yeah.
Because the opposite is in your unconscious. And this is where Jungian psychology comes in, and it's very handy because it's about understanding that there are two centers to the psyche. There's our conscious, and then there's our unconscious. We do not know what's unconscious. We don't.
Well,
not without some inner work.
A lot of inner work, yeah.
Right.
When you say opposites, give us a definition of one side, the other side. Inner directed, outer directed. What do you mean by opposites?
It can be that, but you take the whole universe is in opposites: up, down, hot, cold, black, white, sin, virtue, good, evil. Everything is in opposites. But what relationships struggle with is characteristics and qualities that are out of hand. And we may go back into our memory banks and remember a partner that we had where they were one extreme and we were the other extreme and we didn't like them.
No.
All my partners are extremely different than me. Everybody I've ever, been attracted to, they're like the opposite of me.
Well, everybody does that because we are actually on this planet trying to become conscious of our whole self. And our whole self is what is the result of doing this kind of inner work. Well, like what Peggy said, when you're willing to see that that person is a teacher for you and that you need to be a little more like them, not to the extreme that they're doing it, but halfway. And then you also have to have some humility because you have to recognize that there are things about you don't know. There are things going on in our unconscious we don't know.
Yeah, and when you're experiencing something for the first time, especially something that's traumatic, you don't even know how you're going to react until you do react. I've noticed that. Another thing I've noticed is no matter what it is that you're talking about, don't we all find that when we're in it, we can't see it, and we need outside people to show us the bigger picture? Because it's just like we're in it and we can't see it. It's like the forest for the trees type of a scenario. I'm right here in it with this relationship, and I'm, but somebody else can come in and say, now, wait a minute. If you look at it from a different perspective, like you said, and then oh, well, okay, I didn't look at it like that.
Yeah, that's why I love what I do. And what I do when I'm doing a couple is I do a consultation with one first and then the other, and then I put them together. Because if I have them both come at the same time, they lie. They do. They can't be that open. They can't be that honest. But if they're alone with me, they're completely honest, and I take notes, and then I put them together and I show them what they just both said. Right. It's really interesting how we can be intimate with people, we can be married to them, and still not be open.
And I want to take what Marion said just a little bit further, because I think this is really important if people get this. When you're talking about other people can see things more clearly than we can, but if you'll just understand that your situation you are in the middle of, so you can't see
behind
all of
you
it because you're in the middle of it. Even if you're turning around looking, something's always behind you because you're in the middle of it. So someone else can see the whole picture because they're not in the middle of it.
And not only that, but someone else that knows a little bit of Jungian psychology or has done some Jungian work, because this is not your typical behavioral psychology. It's not. It's more about analytical depth psychology, which is really different. So if you learn some of that, it will improve your relationship significantly, because you will recognize that we all have split off parts of our personality that we're not aware of. That was the biggest step, was recognizing that there was an unconscious in us that I had to say to myself, you're like that, I'm not. And then realize I am. I mean, you have to go through it. It's painful. It takes work. That's why I call it shadow work.
I love it. Now, what if there's someone who is not married or in a relationship? Can you still work with them?
Absolutely, because like Marion said, we have relationships all over the place.
True.
And not all of us came here to the planet to have a Barbie and Ken white picket fence relationship. We didn't. And you can see that in the birth chart, because the person with unusual relationships or monogamous relationships, but they change, is that we have transpersonal energies involved with our Venus, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And so if transpersonal energies are involved with your Venus, then you didn't come here to go to the PTA meetings and have 2 kids and be a Barbie and Ken. You didn't. And you have to make peace with that and accept it. And then if you understand the energy that you actually are, you can't be attracted to anybody unless it's your energy. You can't. So you're only going to be attracted to your energy, and that's only the part of you you're missing. You don't know about it.
And that's what you do. You help us find that missing piece.
I do.
Oh my gosh, we're all out here wandering around. Where's the missing piece?
It's like a puzzle.
We need to talk to you.
It's a puzzle, and I've been doing this since 1990, but I'm a graphic designer, so I spent the majority of my working life as a graphic designer. But I made a commitment this year to do this 100% of the time. So thank you for having me on your show.
You're welcome. We're so tickled. So anyway, there's just so much that's involved. And you said the 7th house has to do with relationships. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, the 7th house is a again, it's 180 degrees opposite of our first house. So our first house is what we identify with. It's our persona, what Jungians would call our persona. In astrology, we call that the rising sign. So it's our appearance. It's how people, when they first meet us, it's our first presentation into a relationship. So people identify with that, their persona, but that isn't the whole person. And if you live with somebody or you have a long-term relationship with somebody, you're going to see the rest of them. And the 7th house is 180 degrees opposite. And that means it's almost impossible to see it without a relationship. You have to be in a relationship or get into relationships, friendships, very close, intimate friendships before you will see that part of you. I was married. I'll just say one story, one quick one. I was married to a man with the moon in Aquarius. I have Aquarius on the 7th house cusp. I left him because I didn't like him. I didn't want to be anything like him. I left him, and 6 years later, I get a business partner, and she's an Aquarius. And so within 6 months, she was exactly like my ex-husband.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I totally get it.
But I was the common denominator.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So I knew there was something going on here that we needed to look at. And that's when I found Jung and I started studying all of this. And she and I did shadow work together. I couldn't have done it without her. You can't do it in a vacuum.
No.
The unrelated human being lacks wholeness because our wholeness comes through an I-Thou relationship, through seeing ourselves in the mirror.
Was she aware that you were doing this on purpose? Okay.
Within 6 months, we were it was so uncomfortable that I was like, I don't even know if I want to work with you.
Yeah.
It got super uncomfortable.
I totally get that. Louise and I went through that. But we told each other, we came here to learn something. We are going to work through this and we're going to come out better on the other end. And sure enough, we did. I mean, we didn't even speak to each other for a while, but we both knew that it was for a reason. And we both knew it. And so we were determined to work it out and to learn. That's fantastic. Most people can't do that.
No.
That what y'all are talking about in layman's terms, you've heard the expression, the honeymoon's over. That's when the shadow side shows up, right?
Well, that's when the projections have fallen off because at first you idealize a person that you meet and you see only the good in them and you're really crazy about them and you're super happy to have met them and you put them on a pedestal, right? But when you really get to know them, the pedestal wears off. The projections collapse. It's inevitable. They have to, so you can be in a real relationship with a conscious, give and take with a real human being who is an ordinary and flawed person just like you.
Oh, ordinary and flawed.
Well, I mean, we're all extraordinary and ordinary. And
I
the
see.
opposites are always in that dance of the highs and the lows.
Oh, that is.
Rebeca, tell us a little bit about your experience with the Wellness Expo.
Well, I don't know anything much about it, only that it's coming to Houston, and I'm going to give a talk at that expo and have a booth because I have a book.
Yes.
So, and if y'all can see, the shadows are in the middle. You have to bring the shadow forward so you can have a real relationship. You can't have the shadow behind you.
Oh, now where can people find your book?
At my website, shadowdance.com. And it's also for sale on Amazon and at the Young Center here in Houston and at Body, Mind, and Soul Bookstore.
Perfect. Say the name again for us.
The Shadow Dance and the Astrological 7th House Workbook.
Oh, there's a workbook
It's
inside your book. Oh,
yes.
It is a workbook.
You have to write in it.
I love that.
There's a place on the sides to write notes to yourself.
Oh,
because as you're reading it, it'll trigger
that's
memory.
a good one. I like that.
Me too. Wow. What caused you to write the book?
My son. I'd been teaching at Centerpoint for probably 10 years. And one day he was sitting on the deck with a bunch of his friends, and he said, "Mom, my friends are having repeating patterns. Would you please come talk to them?" He was about 25 or 27, something like that. And they were like in their 20s, and they were already seeing that patterns were repeating. It was so cool. So I went out and talked to them for a while, and I recorded it. And it was so cool because they gave me some stories, and I was able to help them turn them around. And one in particular, I did write and put it in my book. But then I decided, okay, I need to write this book, and I wanted it to be a workbook. So at the end of chapter 1 and 2, there's actually questions that you have to ask yourself. You have to go inside yourself and do some work. Like number 1, what are you highly identified with?
Oh, I'd have to think about that.
Oh,
And then-
I don't have to think about it. I know. I'm highly identified with my growing waistline.
But that isn't a characteristic inside of you. That's just an exterior thing. But
I don't know what's causing that waistline.
Well, there is something. I mean, I would say there is, but that's something deeper. But no, like say you're identified with the big polarization between me and Trish was that she was introverted and I'm extroverted. And when she was angry, instead of saying she was angry, she would do things to get even that were passive aggressive.
Oh yeah, I recognize passive aggressive behavior. Louise, will you look at the chat?
Yes.
Oh, so yes, passive aggressive. I actually had to somebody had to make me aware that I was being passive aggressive. And once I recognized that terrible behavior, I was able to modify it and speak my truth instead of swallowing it and being passive aggressive.
We have an echo, Marion. Can you hear it?
I can. Does somebody have one of the another opening, like a Facebook or a YouTube open? It's gone now.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes when somebody opens up Facebook or YouTube because they want to see something, it's playing double, so it sounds like an echo. Because there's like a time delay in case somebody cusses or something. We can shut them off.
Yeah. Well, Peggy, why don't you give us a little bit more background on yourself and your upcoming MC-ness at the Wellness Expo in September?
I love that.
That's great. I love
MC-ness.
that. I love that.
Well, I'm just delighted that Felicia Wise is going to be bringing this expo to Houston. She's been doing it for almost 30 years now in the Dallas area. Actually, has them twice a year. So she's got a lot of expertise in putting these things together. And she has finally decided to branch out a little bit and come into the Houston area. So it will be in the Conroe area, actually, at the Lone Star Convention Center. And people like Rebeca and other people that we're going to be having on the show between now and then will be speakers and vendors. I'm excited about it for us right now because we have been isolated, and this is going to give us an opportunity to kind of come out and gather the metaphysical community, the wellness community in Houston. Give us an opportunity to dance together. I was talking to somebody the other day about how there seem to be fewer and fewer places for people to go to ask conscious questions in Houston. Houston used to have kind of a buzzing metaphysical scene happening, and it's kind of quieted down a lot.
Why do you think that is, Peggy Sue?
That's a good question.
Have they all moved to Sedona or something?
No, I think it's an ebb and flow thing. We have a very, very vibrant community, but we're in pockets.
Yes.
Pocket here and a pocket there, and there are small places, but there's not really any big gathering spot or event that
like Centerpoint was.
Yeah, Centerpoint's not there anymore?
I don't think so.
Hasn't been for a while.
No.
I
don't think. And And I mean, there are small places, and Body, Mind, Spirit's awesome,
Yeah.
but there's not really been an expo like this in a number of years. So
Since 2012.
It's what?
Since
Right,
2013 or 2012. The first one was 2012 and then 2013 that Helen Race did.
right.
And I helped her with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Helen's going to be on our show a little
Yeah.
bit later on. So I'm
Good.
looking forward.
Yes.
Always have fun with Helen. But yeah, I think it's also exciting because there'll be vendors and speakers coming down from the Dallas area, so that our communities can commingle and get to know each other and share best practices and just play together. So I am just delighted. I'm really excited about this. And, especially now that we're going through this kind of isolated period where I think a lot of people are getting quiet and doing their inner work.
Mhm.
So to have this opportunity to come together and share some of those experiences is going to be phenomenal.
I
Right?
agree.
So, and Rebeca, I think you are doing tremendous work right now for people who want to take, advantage of this opportunity that we have, this isolation, this seclusion, to do some of that inner work. And I think that's so important. So, take advantage of it. I look at this time period as like a Mercury retrograde on steroid.
On steroids.
It's like not a good time to start anything new, but it's a great time to finish up what you started and to do inner work, to get quiet, to get still, and really go inside. So shadow work is so very important because we can't become whole and balanced if we're not looking at the whole picture, right, Rebeca?
That's right. And, whenever you're willing to do this kind of work, you become more conscious and you're contributing to the cosmos. It's like we're contributing to the evolution of everyone when we're willing to do this work.
Right.
And recognize that everything is in opposites, and therefore not to get out of balance in one or the other in a relationship that you want to work. Because if you start to recognize that things are repeating, you're going to know you're part of it. And so instead of looking at life like you're a victim, right? Like, people can say, well, I'm a victim of these relationships. No, we're not. We're part of it, but we're unconscious of the part of us that's begging us for acceptance, for our integration.
Yeah. Well, now, if someone wanted a consultation with you, Rebeca, how would they reach you?
On my website, there are 7 different consultations that I'll do.
Oh.
I offer 7 different ones because astrology is very complex. So I do definitely a relationship one. That's my primary one that people seek me out for, which is your Venus, your 7th house, your aspects, the ruler of your 7th house. And then I do a natal, which is an overall, looking at all the different energies. And then I do 2 that I think are even very valuable that contribute to your self-knowledge, which one of them is looking at your Saturn, because that is where we all feel inferior. Wherever our Saturn is, by house and placement and aspect, is where we feel inferior. And it's like an Achilles heel that we carry with us. Everywhere we go, we take ourselves. And so therefore, that part of you, if you're aware of it, that really helps. And then another relationship.
Well, Rebeca, can I just ask a quick question about that? Because I think it's important. When you talk about where your Saturn is, could you give us some examples of where a Saturn might be and how that might be affecting someone's life?
Well, if you have Saturn in the 1st house, okay, you may be so responsible that you think the whole world is on your shoulders, and you may be carrying the world for everybody around you, not letting them grow up.
Oh.
And you're thinking to yourself that everybody's irresponsible, and that you keep attracting Peter Pans or Puellas. What we call the puer eternus in Jungian psychology it's called the Peter Pan complex. And so if you're a very Saturnian, responsible, dedicated, hardworking, you attract the opposite and it can hurt you. Because if you're not delegating, if you're not recognizing that you are not the boss of everybody, you can get sick.
Oh,
You literally can get sick. When our shadow is, when we're unaware of the different parts of us and other people have to live them for us, it can somatize into the body. I mean,
Absolutely.
it can.
We have a question from the audience. Are you ready to take it?
Sure.
All right. What if you're wonderfully happy in your relationship? Is there still something that you don't know? And that's from Peggy Moore.
Well, hopefully you've had several relationships within that relationship, because most relationships experience ups and downs. And if you're in a relationship and you never argue and you never fight, I would go, okay, well, who's holding back? Because something's going on, albeit unconsciously, that maybe they're not wanting to deal with. I've had people come to me who they'll say, they had a perfect childhood. Nobody had a perfect childhood. It's not possible. Nobody has a perfect marriage. I'm happy that you're happy. That's wonderful. And maybe you all have learned how to meet each other halfway, how to, give and take. If you have one person who's just the taker and one person's just the giver, eventually that's going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
both of you.
But if you're really happy, I'm happy for you.
We have another question. This
Okay.
one comes in from Karen. Karen says, do you believe certain astrological signs get along or conform better than others? Do you believe relationships would be better if people knew signs ahead of time?
I don't believe that people can judge a person by their sun sign. You have to know the whole chart. So what I would recommend, because we can have the moon, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto in different signs. You might only have one planet in that sign. So it's not going to be as strong as, say, you have 5 planets in Capricorn, but you have the sun in Scorpio. You're going to be more Capricorn. You're going to be Scorpio. So you have to know the whole chart of the person. So what I recommend, is to have a consultation with that person. And if you don't want to go to that expense, is to order a psychological horoscope analysis report off my website. It's by Liz Green, who's the world's most famous astrologer. And I'm authorized to sell her reports. They are so accurate. And she talks about your shadow in there. I recommend you read it to each other. You will learn about things about yourself that you didn't know. And you will also say to yourself, well, I thought only I knew that about me.
Oh, dear.
Right?
Well, yeah. How does one find their signs?
You have to know the time, place, and date. So you really need the birth time. It has to be that accurate. I mean, to the minute, longitude and latitude of where you were born is how the birth chart is created. And
I have a funny story about that. Excuse me for interrupting.
That's okay.
My mother, I know exactly when I was born because my mother told me that she held me in for 10 minutes after midnight so that I wouldn't share the same birthday as my grandmother.
Wow.
So I know I was born at 10 minutes after midnight.
Wow. That's cool.
That's funny.
What about folks, and I'm one of them, who were born via cesarean?
My son was born via cesarean. And to the minute that he was born at 4:52 in the afternoon, that is his character.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's like the moment of birth, we become part of the cosmos. It's not like the planets are out there doing something to us. It's that we are in a unified system of energy and everything is connected. Everything. Jung called it the collective unconscious, what's underneath all of it. So we are all connected to each other. And as above, so below, as within, so without, right? So the planets, the animals, the seasons, everything is connected.
Wow. I love that. And you just know so much. I'm in awe.
Aw.
Because this is not easy stuff.
No, I studied it for 5 years obsessively. You had to be obsessed to learn it because it's so complicated. But I did. Kevin was one when I was getting a divorce. And I was getting a divorce because the planet Pluto was going back and forth over my Venus. And I keep journals because I'm a journaler. So when I went and had my first astrology reading with John Rankin, who built the Unity Pyramid,
I remember.
he told me, you've been involved in a very complicated relationship where there were no easy answers and you thought you were going to save this person. And I'm like, how does he know all of that? And I couldn't believe it. And Kevin was one. So I had a lot of nights to be alone. You don't go anywhere when you have a 1-year-old. So I studied and studied and read and read and read into the night. And I took classes at the Aquarian Age bookstore.
I remember that.
I remember that.
On Chaucer. And John Gray's mother and Lucille, Virginia Gray and Lucille owned that bookstore. Well, we took astrology classes there for 5 years.
Wow.
Every week. And that you have to become obsessed with it to learn it. You can't just, I'm going to learn astrology. It takes years.
Yeah. Marion, you and I are the networkers of this group, and you, the other two ladies, of course, too. But you and I have been in it. I was the queen of networking for a long time in Houston, and you took over when I retired. You became the queen of networking. We need to get a networking group going for our metaphysical community. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
I'm ready.
Well,
I've actually started.
Let us come out and play, right?
That.
I've started a Jungian Sunday school study group on Sundays at 1:15, and anybody's welcome to join on my astrology page on Facebook, Astrology Shadow and Seventh House. There's the Zoom ID so that you can connect. And what I'm doing is I'm sharing my teacher, mentor, Pittman McGehee. He was the dean of Christ Church Cathedral downtown for many, many years, and he became a Jungian analyst. And he's my first experience with going to the Jung Center and learning about all this stuff, which was in 1990. So that was like 30 years ago.
Oh.
But I decided to design a website for him because he's 75 now.
Nice.
And get him out there. So I've created a podcast with his old talks from Christ Church Cathedral that are so profound. Sunday, I shared one called The Easter Chicken. I highly recommend everybody go hear it.
I heard it.
Wasn't that good?
It was so fun.
We have another question from the audience. This comes from Karen. She says, earth signs and water signs, totally different personalities, but able to live succinctly. Air signs too?
Air signs and fire signs get along better than earth and water get along better, and air and fire get along better. But again, if you have a tremendous amount of earth and the other person has no earth at all, then they're going to want you to be the father figure. They're going to want you to be the grounded one. They're going to want you to be the responsible picture. And they can fly around doing whatever they want to do, right? So that you took care of all the bills and you were the manager of the relationship. So you really have to see the whole chart of each person. It's complicated. We are all unique.
Everybody is different, like snowflakes, I guess, huh?
Exactly. I use that. We are all so completely unique.
I love that. Oh, that is fascinating. I got to go read more about this because I really don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
And getting a consultation, I think, is going to be the best thing I can do for myself. How about you folks out there?
Yeah.
Time for a consultation with this wonderful lady.
My consultations include the psychological report.
Oh.
So when you get a one-on-one consultation, you also get the psychological report. And it's really good.
I agree with that. Now, I know that Peggy Sue is going to be taking us out tonight. So I just want to say thank you for everybody that came and hung out with us tonight. It was a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Lady Lou.
You're
Peggy
welcome.
Sue, you're just a gift to the world. And we appreciate you so much. And we're going to give you some time tonight to give us a nice meditation. So, ladies, say goodbye before we turn it over to Peggy.
We love you all. Thank you for being here.
Yes, yes.
Good night.
So
Good
thank
night.
you, Marion. I love doing this very short meditation. This is only 5 minutes, and we'll put up a graphic so that you can close your eyes and not be distracted. You're going to do that, right, Marion?
I am.
Okay.
Everybody
So-
wave goodbye.
So the reason I feel like this is important right now is because there are so many things going on the planet, and one of the beauties of what's been going on is that people are getting more still and more quiet, and that is literally changing the air quality, the noise quality, and literally the vibration of the planet is shifting and becoming more calm. So the more we can do to help with that, the better off we'll all be. So I just invite you to close your eyes and sit back and relax, and to start breathing deeply. For this particular meditation, I'm going to ask that you breathe in through your nose, let your mouth hang open just softly, and breathe out through your mouth. And just focus on your breath, even more than my voice. Focus on your breath. Feel the air coming in through your nostrils and then out through your mouth. Gently breathing in. Focus enough so that you're sure that each inhale matches the exhale. Deep, deep belly breath. Just breathe. And as you breathe in, feel that beautiful white light that I'm sending to you, that everyone on the call is breathing out to you. And inhale that beautiful healing white light, pure love. And exhale it back out. And we are literally, as we breathe in and breathe out, sending that love energy to everyone. We're enveloping the planet, hugging the planet, thanking her for her bounty, for her very foundation of our life. Just breathing in as it comes back to you. And feel your body get warmer, softer, and exhale. And as we breathe this light in, it literally encompasses our whole body. Internally, surrounds us, cocoons us. And as we breathe it out, we're sending it to you. If you can hear my voice, you're getting this energy. And even if you can't hear my voice, you're getting this energy. The trees are being surrounded. The plants, the animals, every person being enveloped in this beautiful white light. Breathe it in. And send it out. Send it to me. Send it to everyone. All things. Beautiful, white, love, light. And take this energy with you into the evening. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Good night.